Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Wanted to jump on here with Hudson Standish as well as Kieran. Kieran will jump on right here, going through our intros and getting kicked off here. Lot to talk about, and we're gonna move pretty quickly here from the standpoint of Hudson has a lot of stuff popping off real time because we have another massive weekend of visits coming up. And so there's a lot of moving parts, and I want to make sure we get as many questions answered from us as fans, Karen, myself, everybody in the chat, but also if, somebody has to jump off and take some calls like Hudson because he's got a lot of things moving, we can be respectful of that as well. Hudson, Karen, what you guys got going on tonight?
I'll let Hudson go first.
I was trying to be deferential. Nothing much, just previewing another big-time recruiting weekend. It kind of doesn't stop. It's the double-edged sword of covering Texas. Like a lot of other sites would just kill to have half of the recruiting stuff that Texas has to cover, but it kind of never stops. Like I told Steven pre-show, Kieran, but there's one recruit in particular that I'm going to hear from tonight, and I don't know when it's going to be. So there is a maybe decent chance that I might have to hop off for like 5 to 10 minutes if that happens. But if not, we'll just power through and I'll probably get that update later tonight. But it's a guy coming in this upcoming weekend, and I want to know how his last official went. So, but overall, pretty good. I don't know if y'all know this, but the Texas State 7-on-7 championships are this weekend. So in addition to the recruiting visit weekend, they're going to be like 24 Texas targets, a lot of Texas commits that are going to be playing in College Station with their high schools, which is awesome content. But also it's like such a good evaluation opportunity for us at 247. So, I mean, it's going to be busy, but it's going to be a lot of freaking fun.
I mean, for me, just making more content. That's pretty much it's all I've been up to lately. But yeah, excited to talk about what's been going on for sure.
So I want to address, we got some real interesting comments here already. And first and foremost, if you guys see the scroller at the bottom, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, busr.com/fanatic, the official sponsor, the official sportsbook, the official betting partner of Fanatic Perspective. Still a lot going on. Tran is out here. I saw somebody commenting about Tran. He's got a lot going on with his kids. They're both in sports now, very, very active. But he is taking advantage of BUSR on his downtime and making a lot of money on post-seventh inning bets with MLB right now. So you guys jump in there and take advantage at busr.com/fanatic. I got a super chat here from Grayman. If somebody wants to answer this question, get to our stuff.
Oh, I got something for you on that one,
Tucker Dorsey.
I got something for you on that one.
Jump in.
So do you remember on our last two-parter how I kind of gave you the big tease that Mike had mentioned in another article, but about DeMarvion Overshone playing edge?
Yes.
Okay. I sure remember it, yeah.
Yeah, so we got told over the weekend that Diamante Tucker Dorsey immediately started crushing workouts, and the staff now kind of is even a little bit more confident that they can hang Demo out on the edge and move him around and trust that with Ford, Tucker Dorsey, and apparently Benda has started coming on pretty strong too, that with those three that they'll
That's really good news.
Exactly, that they'll be good enough at inside backer to where they can actually really just move Demo wherever the hell they want to. So I actually did hear a little bit of an update about him. And obviously the physical limitations with Tucker Dorsey are clear. Like he's a true 5'9". His 5'10" or 5'11" height is, a little bit generous, but extremely smart player, super instinctual, flies to the ball. So I don't know. He's crushing early workouts. We'll see once the pads come on.
I appreciate that, Hudson. And, it's going to be a really interesting to see how these reports come out and surface. And we've talked about that before. But let's get to the meat of why we're here. How did things go this weekend with Arch? I want to cut straight to the chase, okay? Because there's a lot of reports. Will Randall has committed. I want to get to the Will first, or whatever you want to take on, and then Kieran and I will bounce off from.
Yeah, I mean, Steven, it was definitely a real shocker that Will Randall committed, right? I definitely was no selling that one, right? No, I mean, everybody kind of expected Will Randall to commit this weekend, and it ended up happening kind of according to plan. I had a couple of Arch updates throughout the visit. We were a little bit more aggressive in pushing stuff out there. The thing that I think is the most interesting, and I would love to get y'all's feedback on, is I posted an update, and I think it was the first in the industry that I think it's kind of a big deal. Arch spent a majority of the day on Saturday with Quinn, and they were just bouncing, ideas and thoughts to each other of kind of the stresses of what it's like to be the number one player in the nation, especially considering all these schools handling the recruiting process. And I heard that Quinn kind of crushed his portion of the recruiting visit and answered a lot of kind of tough questions for Arch about what the program is like, especially since he's been able to compare it to Ohio State, another, top level program. So I think that was something that really I wasn't necessarily expecting was going to happen, but when I heard it, it definitely, made me think that the visit was going good. In addition to is just normal, like Arch has done this with the Texas visits 4 or 5 times now. So you're going to get your normal stories about him and a good crew of the football players like, Michael Taffy from Westlake, who's his host, like going out to Buford's on 6th or like various other stuff. So that's not really a surprise, but hearing that him and Quinn really hit it off, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty big deal.
So Arch just isn't committed is what you're saying?
Yeah, no. I think the timeline is the most interesting remaining thing on Arch. Like, this upcoming weekend is the Manning Passing Academy. I'm starting to think that maybe he won't even announce it there, but I don't think he's taking it into the fall. And I think that they kind of want it sooner rather than later. So, I mean, that's an interesting part of it too.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the interesting things following it is the timeline, because it seems like everyone's saying it's likely to happen within the next month. I guess is that more on Arch's team, or is that Arch himself that just wants to get this done before fall camp?
I think it's Arch personally, and I also think it's like the entire family is kind of just, if we're going to be confident in the decision, we feel like there's, if we feel like it's certain, let's just get it over with, because I do think it's been weighing on them a little bit. Like they keep everything close to the vest for a reason. Like they don't enjoy the media circus. Like they'll happily, reap they'll reap the benefits from it. They'll, they like that aspect, but it is a lot. I mean, there's a reason that Arch's Twitter bio is high school student. Like that's the image he wants to portray. Like I'm a normal dude. I want to go somewhere for a normal college experience, which is why Texas, I think, has kind of crushed this personally, because I think a lot of schools have the opposite, where they hear Arch wants to be with a lot of big time players. And so the entire visit is just photo shoots and, a bunch of hype, when in reality, he just wants to have the kind of normal student life.
I love Texas Homer in these comments. It's hilarious. Sorry, I just gotta point out Homer in the comments.
Yeah, that was funny.
He's in there saying, Tran, how dare Tran be a good father than be on YouTube.
Oh, I have another Tran update about being a parent, by the way. Jordan Tran, his son, dropped a triple-double in basketball the other day. So just throwing that out there per Tran's box score from the 6-year-old game. But speaking of parents, I don't think we've talked enough about, I mean, we've talked about this whole recruitment sideways, but the influence of Cooper and mom and, how that plays in there, because with all these recruiting elements, there's always somebody that has some sort of level of influence more than anybody else. Typically, sometimes it's the high school football coach, sometimes it's the uncle, sometimes the mentor. What, is there any read there in terms of influence from dad, mom, uncles, Archie, what have you?
I mean, for the most part, they're going to let him make his call. Like there had been some reports and a lot of rumors that the mom kind of preferred Georgia, But I mean, you know, I don't know even how serious a lot of that is. I think that they're comfortable enough. I think they're comfortable enough with Arch to just kind of let him make his call.
So the other thing I wanted to address as well was the other guys that came on the visit. Like, so he brought Raul, is it Gary or Gary? But he didn't. That guy obviously didn't make our top 6. The linebacker from Georgia. But I heard that he came on the visit because Arch asked him to come on the visit. Like, there's some of those dynamics I feel like going on there in terms of him, you know, trying to position guys. Was that also the case at the Georgia visit, or I'm just trying to separate things from Georgia's visit from the Texas visit, if that makes sense?
Yeah, and there's actually been some, like, we kind of aren't sure. We aren't 100% sure that Raul Aguirre even made it to Texas because he just never posted anything. Like, there was essentially not a lot of, I mean, the staff the entire time just downplayed. Even when we first heard that he was going to visit and talked with some sources on the staff, they were like, look, he's not coming here. But been kind of what you're hinting at, Stephen, the only reason why he's even coming to Texas is because Arch asked him to on the Alabama official, which is a juicy nugget. Mike reported it in the Stampede. But to your question, yeah, there are some guys to where like Arch would bring them on or ask them to go on Georgia visits, or they're not considering Texas and he would keep in contact with them. But the majority of the guys that he keeps in contact with and really is reaching out to are Texas leans or just Texas targets in general.
That's interesting. I guess my big question here is, because I always think there is, I was talking in a Twitter space about this earlier this morning, but I always think that when we have these elite 5-star quarterback prospects, I feel like, yes, they do help push the class forward. They do help get other prospects in the fold. But do you think that this, if Arch Manning commits, we're going to get this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy thing is more true or false? Like where does that fall on the spectrum of impact, I guess, is the question I'm asking. Just
yeah. I mean, you know how it is, Kieran. Like, it's never that simple. Like, I think Mike and I mentioned it on a recent podcast, but do you remember when Evan Stewart gave the infamous, like, oh, yeah, if Texas goes to the SEC, oh, that's a lock. I'm going there. And then it happened. And, of course, Evan was like, well, I guess never mind. So, I mean, it's never that simple of recruits being – because, like, for example, Mikael Harrison-Pilot, who I do think is a Texas lean, straight up on Instagram was like, if Arch commits to Texas, I'm committing immediately. Like, just to the public, he said that. But we all know it's not that simple. Like, you know, I think it's a tough question because I do know of like 2 or 3 like elite dudes that will take visits to Texas that aren't on the radar as soon as Arch potentially commits. But as far as tangible benefits, there will be some, but I don't think it's just going to be this wave to where, you know, now Nicholas Harbor is suddenly visiting Texas because Arch Manning decided to commit, you know?
Yeah. That's really just been my big concern. I just don't want everybody to get their hopes up and be like, we're going to get Jalen Hale. We're going to get all of these. I still think that those recruitments are still those individuals playing the field.
So let me introduce this. Let's take the first kind of sidebar. Reuben Owens commits to Louisville, and it's hilarious in the sense that I've never seen somebody recruit or commit to a school where literally everyone, including other recruits, are questioning how long he's going to actually stay committed to said school. I've never, ever seen that many people question said commitment. Shout out to Louisville. They have, I think, 4 top 200 guys committed already. So, you know, the whole Jack Harlow movement going on over there in Kentucky is, I guess, a real thing. But that was a guy who was kind of tied in that trio with Arch and Jonte. And now that moves us into the Cedric Baxter discussion, who I had on the thumbnail. I feel like that's one guy, you know, Hudson, that is now his recruitment has become critical. in a sense. How do you take that whole like kind of domino scenario with Reuben Owens leading to Cedric Baxter Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, Steven, you remember what we talked about on our two-parter. Do you remember at the end of the part one where I was like, look, we've just got to get some Cedric Baxter talk because, and this is, behind the scenes, but I was like, look, we've got to get some Cedric Baxter talk because that's where they're pivoting. Like, they're not getting Owens. It sucks so much that I had so many opportunities to get off my Texas crystal ball for Owens, but his decision was supposed to be in August. And I was like, look, what I'm going to do is eventually when the time comes, I'm just going to drop Reuben's crystal ball to wherever he's feeling at the time. And then I'll just put in a Cedric pick for wherever he's going to and do a two-parter. But, Reuben decided to kind of shock the world and commit to Louisville. I mean, there were picks in and everything, but people thought that he would take his time until August. So it was a little bit of a shock timing-wise, but anybody who's followed that recruitment wasn't really going to be surprised that it ended up that way. And, this is also just showing that NIL truly does matter when it comes to current college football recruiting. Like everybody knows, Louisville has a really good NIL pitch that's kind of tied up with Adidas. And I mean, their quarterback commit, Pierce Clarkson, who's from California, his dad, Steve Clarkson, is one of the big QB trainers out there that works with a lot of NFL guys. I mean, he does they do a really good job recruiting as well. So, but as you're kind of saying, Steven, I think it's more likely that he ends up at Louisville than probably Jonte Cook feels, but that's still 25 to 30-ish%. You know what I mean? At some point, let's just be real. At some point, you kind of have to play football. And then when these recruits are watching Louisville on the field this year, I don't get the sense it's going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm excited to go do that. I mean,
let's be honest here. Has Reuben Owens ever struck you guys as someone that was going to stay committed to a team that he committed to before his last season of high school football? Or does he seem like the kid that's going to make a decision on national television when all the eyes are on him? Because to me, that's what it seems like. In my opinion, I think Reuben Owens, Jonte Cook, I did not expect a commitment from either one of those guys until later on in the fall, to be honest with you, just because I think they enjoy the recruitment process as they should,
Absolutely.
Hudson, you had an interesting look there.
I don't know. You never know with that type of stuff. I mean, that I agreed with you, but then it's the Louisville one pops out. You never know.
Well, when people are offering KFC bags, you can't you can't turn them down.
But it's not like Texas is out for naught. I made this mistake, but I learned this lesson a few years ago, and I saw Mike in his article. Shout out to 247, and Mike Roach alluded to this in one of his write-ups about the Zach Evans, Bijan Robinson year in 2020. And I made the video back then about, woe is me and sky is falling when we didn't make Zach Evans top 5. And at the time, I think Bijan was still Ohio State lean, and we worked on Bijan, and Bijan commits to Texas. And we end up getting the out-of-state guy who turns out to be the best fit for us, and we never look back. And so now I've learned to have patience with this and trust the evaluations. And so we're going chips in on Cedric Baxter Jr., which is going to be tough because of Texas A&M and Florida and some of these other schools that are in the mix for his services. But at least there's a target there. And so I don't think it's just doom and gloom. We're putting our head down because we didn't get Reuben Owens. I mean, we love the prospect and the kid, but there's focus here from what Tashard Choice is trying to do as well.
Yeah, I mean. Also, I don't think it's a coincidence that Reuben Owens commits to Louisville and then Steve Wiltfong from 24/7 comes out in a video. I'm not sure if it was today or yesterday. It's actually attached to your article, Hudson, that you just came out with about 30 minutes ago or something like that. Yeah, it's and he's essentially saying that Texas and Texas A&M are 1A, 1B for Cedric Baxter. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Texas is very much in it with Cedric Baxter. Everything that we've heard is that he has a phenomenal relationship with Tashard Choice. I mean, Hudson, do you want to speak more to that, about how his visit went and his relationship with Choice?
Yeah, I think here's the big thing that I want fans to kind of understand. This is not a oh no, Reuben Owens committed to Louisville, so now we have to go all in on Cedric Baxter. Like, they were pushing the chips to Cedric Baxter weeks ago. Like, that's one reason when Steven and I did our 2-part podcast, I really wanted to make clear, like, yo, we need to talk about Cedric Baxter maybe a little bit more than Reuben Owens, because it's just setting those expectations of this is who they're really targeting without also burning the staff at the time and being like, yo, putting that out there. So, I mean, it's kind of nothing new. It's going to be a hell of a battle with A&M because Texas has already used their official visit and they absolutely crushed it. I think there's a reason why Wiltfong put out that video today, and it was Texas and Texas A&M still, which is what we've heard from the jump. And even though he just took an official visit to Florida, which, you know, Cedric Baxter's from Orlando, took an official visit to Florida, and still Florida can't crack Texas and Texas A&M in that top 2. So, I mean, I think another thing with when we're talking Owens and you mentioned NIL, a lot of the fan reaction sometimes, I think justifiably, is like, okay, well, why can't we win an NIL-focused battle? And I'd say that, you know, Baxter's going to kind of be that same type of recruitment, you know, but the thing that Texas really has as an advantage is that Baxter's family has gone on record multiple times saying that Tashard Choice is the position coach that they're closest with. And they loved the official in Austin, so they have that momentum as well. It'll be interesting to see what his timeline is. I know his birthday is coming up pretty soon, so I'm a little bit curious if that might be a potential decision date, but we'll see.
Also, shout out
Homer
to Tracy. Oh, go ahead.
Before we get to Tracy, Homer asked about Trey Wisner from Dodo if he's still firm.
I mean, Trey's never going to be like 100% firm until he signs. Like, that's just the nature of, you know, him. But, you know, it's just one of those things to where they're going to keep getting him on campus. And I think that with Jonte too, like that could potentially help both of their recruitments. The fact that Trey's now at DeSoto.
Good stuff. All right, Tracy, go ahead, Karen.
I was just gonna say shout out to Tracy for roasting my music selection. Beyonce dropped. I will give you this. Beyonce did drop something better than Drake did in recent memory. I could give you that. But also, my playlist is fire. Okay, I got Lauryn Hill, Music Soul Child. I keep up with the R&B stuff. All right. Now stop dissing my playlist. All right. I also do have more Drake on there than I have freaking Nas or whatever you guys listen to. All that old people.
Hey, relax.
That's all I'm saying.
Brother.
That's all I'm saying.
Relax, brother. You were fine. You were fine. You can uplift your stuff and not, minimize others.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to minimize.
There's
He's
no
great.
need to take a shot at Nas,
35
bro.
with 3 children. Like it's fine. Like that's phenomenal, good music to clean the house to.
And my guy, you're gonna feel the same way about your YSL in 10 years. When even though it's the end, brother. So let's continue to
free Young Thug. What's a couple of bodies when you got bars? All right, you know the deal. You know the deal.
I'm sorry.
Moving on.
Kieran, I have something for you. I've gotten a lot of questions about Malik Muhammad. And I know you are one of the leaders of this, even though you're a Duncanville guy, you lead, also the sock bandwagon and whatnot. Are you doing your part to try to influence these brothers down there? I know these are some of the young homies in the area, but we need you to step it up, man.
If I get back to South Dallas, if I get back to South Dallas, I will 100% be out there doing the Lord's work on the recruiting trail. 100%. I will be spreading the propaganda, telling these kids all the lies they need to hear in order to get to Austin, Texas. All right. Now, listen, I'm not only super excited about what I've heard from this past weekend about Malik Muhammad, but also extremely excited because there's another player that goes to SOC named Billy Walden, who it seems Texas is putting a little bit more effort into. And I'm extremely excited about that. I have said to both of you gentlemen, I'm not sure if I've said it on the show. I honestly think at the skill positions, cornerback should be priority number 1 for us going into this next season, just because I think you have some veterans in that room, but you don't really have an influx of young talent. I think Javian Toviano and Malik Muhammad should be top 5 on that board. when it comes to all of the prospects, as far as what we prioritize, just our money, resources, whatever it is that we have to do to get these kids on campus. I would love to have Malik Muhammad and Javian Tobiano in the class, and to hear that we've made up some ground on A&M and on Alabama with Malik Muhammad, extremely exciting. I hope that we get him on campus later this summer or in the fall. But also, I wanted to ask Hudson about this Billy Walton stuff that I'm hearing, because I thought he was a take. Well, also I'm a homer, but like, yeah, I definitely think Billy Walton should be there.
It'll be interesting to see where the edge board kind of stacks out and how hard they push. Like, they've also got Braylon Shelby, my guy from Friendswood, hopping on campus this upcoming weekend, who I've tried to tell Texas fans since I've been in the industry. He was one of my first ever interviews. I've been just saying, this is an NFL body. Like, this is the type of like perfect recruit for Pete Kwiatkowski's defense. And over time, Texas went from him being on the radar to him actually getting to an offer, turning up the gas a little bit on the recruitment, to now it's like Texas versus USC for Braylon Shelby is a sneaky major head-to-head battle in the country, that because Braylon is a little bit of a late riser with the recruiting rankings, isn't getting as much attention paid to it as it should. So Billy Walton's going to be an interesting one. I'm super curious to see if this is more about trying to get in there and make a little bit of a wedge in Oklahoma State's commitment, or if they're really going to push and try to get a straight flip on the visit. Another thing too, Kieran, they're going to host 2 more kids from SOC this weekend, in Big Bubba and Big Mike, the SMU and TCU offensive line commits. So that'll be a fun one for Kyle Flood to kind of eval while they're on campus as well.
I can go further too. There's a lot of SOC kids that I want to get some shine. I just want to give a shout out Randy Reese. I think he is an elite playmaker. You guys will see him this fall playing in the state championship again when SOC repeats. You'll see him losing to Duncanville though, sadly. I'm excited to see where that kid ends up. But yeah, Bubba, I'm excited to see what we can do. Offensive line recruiting has been sort of a head scratcher for me as of recently. At least earlier on, I thought we were all in on Harris Sewell, and then we ended up dropping out of that one. Do you have any updates on the offensive line recruiting, Hudson?
It's tough because with Harris Sewell, that was just kind of a culture fit thing for him, to where he's like, look, I have a family that went to Texas. I like Texas. Austin's just kind of not for me. He's focusing on two towns that kind of fit more what Odessa's about in College Station and Clemson. So that'll be one that's kind of interesting. Ian Reed, who I really, really like. Clemson just, did a really good job in that recruitment and got him. They're still in a really good position for Jaden Chapman. I actually put in a crystal ball today. I'd been meaning to do it since the spring, but it was one of those ones where you don't want to get into visit season and then have to make a bunch of different flip picks. So I just wanted to see where we were post all of his other visits, since I knew that Texas was going to be the last school. I love where they're at there. I think that he was one of the 2 best tackles on their board, and they're in a great spot to get him. So that sets the floor really high if they can grab him. And then you have guys like Connor Stroh, Andre Kojo, just 2 names off the top of my head, to where Kyle Flood was the first to offer them. They've been perfect kind of positional fits for what he wants in this scheme, as far as big bodies that he can kind of mold how he wants. And so Texas looks decent there. I'm really interested about Trevor Gooseby being on campus. He's a TCU commit. I've written about him a ton. He has freaky NFL measurables, and posted a nice little 360 dunk that I ended up, I think, reposting on the Horns 24/7 Instagram. Like, he's a freak athlete and has his best football ahead of him. And also, Kieran, I think this is important to remember too. Like, they're going to keep it at 3, 4, 5, probably 4 takes in this class, just because it's kind of hard to. It's hard to recruit a ton of offensive linemen, even though you do need that depth in the program after, last year's massive class, which, if we want to talk about later, I've heard some fun updates on all those guys.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to comment on the what should be the number 1 priority. Of course, you guys know me. I love the edge position. I think that when Texas is truly back is when we're starting to land the Will Anderson, Dallas Turner level edge players. But looking at the roster heading into next season, you got these young corners are going to have to start playing. The Terrence Brooks, the Jalen Gilbo, the Ishmael Ibrahim, because honestly, I was extremely high on him. I know he's had a lot of setbacks coming in here, but extremely high on him coming in. I think you need more bodies in that room. And the more talent that you put in there, the better. Also, I don't know if Terrence Brooks is going to be a corner long term. I could definitely see him moving to safety. I'm extremely encouraged about what I've heard about Jalen Gilbo, but adding JV and Toviano and Malik Muhammad would be incredible. Like to have that be your tandem later on, I don't think you can go wrong there.
And it pushes the room, and you have the opportunity, guys like Terrence Brooks or Ryan Watts or anybody else that you want to play with, like they did this year with Anthony Cook, and trying them at different positions, just trying to get your best 5 out there. There's no reason not to try to upgrade them, especially the battle we've had for elite tier corners like that in recent years, where we've come up short and we felt like we've been in the mix, whether it's Denver Harris or a young man that Keely Ringo, some of these big names. And so when these guys are now in our neck of the woods, being able to add somebody like that with their abilities, I think it just enhances the versatility that we can do with a lot of different guys. Because I agree with you about Terrence Brooks long-term positionally. I know he's a DB. I just don't know exactly where he fits within our scheme. The quick break here, because I want to plug a few things. Queenie B has the dates up here for the next NIL signing that is going on. Derek Brown, Jalil Billingsley, BJ Allen, and LTG on July 2nd, Saturday, July 2nd, Valhalla Sports Lounge, which is on West 6. So you guys, please go check that out. She has details on her Twitter. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. We're going to keep going, but I just want to have a little commercial break and plug a couple things. I have a point I want to make about Arch, but I want to finish this conversation and where our heads are at. But just in terms of the DB take, I totally agree with you, Karen.
Yeah. I've got something for you. We don't mention him enough because he's not in state, but Jordan Matthews always kind of gets forgotten in these discussions, and he's going to end up being a top 75 player in the nation, and recently picked up offers from LSU, Clemson, and Alabama. Mike and I both have crystal ball predictions in for him, and so I kind of do think we need to make sure to mention him, just because that's pulling, if they get him, that's pulling a kid from Baton Rouge that has basically every offer in the country and is, put down a 10.66 in the spring on the track. So like that's a elite level corner that I agree with you, Kieran, might need to potentially play right away. And then if you pair him with the Malik Muhammad potentially, or if you, grab a couple other DBs, then it's looking like what we kind of thought could be the weakest position group in the 23 class that becomes a true strength.
I completely forgot. I'll be honest with you. I'll put my hand up and say that I was messed up. Jordan Matthews is an incredible player. And honestly, I've checked out more of his film over the past couple of weeks. And the fact that he has verified 10.6 track speed, if you know me, I'm a track and field like nut. The fact 10.6
speed, baby.
10.6 is zooming. 10.6 is zooming. For reference, Xavier Worthy's fastest time as a sophomore is 10.5. And we're talking about one of the fastest players in the country there. Like, yeah, we're talking about zooming.
So, go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, back on the Arch Manning thing, he's coming, right?
You kind of can't talk to anybody. That's the frustrating part, is that he keeps it so close to the vest. Like, honestly, tip of the freaking hat to the family. Like, they keep stuff so close to the vest. So, there's this doubt when everybody's like, yeah, I think it's Texas, but we never really can surely know. So, I mean, my gut is that he's going to end up at Texas, but I've also said from the jump, I don't want to put a pick in until it's 100% because, or, at least we have a really strong hunch because,
your professional reputation's on the line there.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'd rather be the last one to the pick and get it right than to, be part of just like a huge whiff. So
yeah, the memes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think he'll end up at Texas. It makes the most sense from everything that we're hearing. But I don't know. For me, what's the most interesting remaining point of discussion for the 2023 class is just like how high can you get the skill spots on both sides of the ball? And, the edge room's pretty weak. Can you upgrade that to where maybe a second-year Justice Finkley and somebody from the portal can then bring on like a Colton Bostic and a Braylon Shelby and really start pinning the ears back and getting after guys? Because, I think the Demo solution could be a nice stopgap for this season. But again, there's a lot of talent on the defensive side that just needs to be upgraded. I saw
if it works.
Yeah, exactly. If it works too. There's definitely a situation to where he just can't really, set the edge as a buck linebacker, and you have to mix stuff around, which, oh God, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. And that's honestly another thing that I was thinking of. We didn't get to touch on it too much earlier, but overshown to edge, does that sort of let PK run his true 2-4-5 type system? Just because if you're going to have Ovi and overshown out there on the edge, like I think it's interesting from a, like Rod Baber says, like a football theorist perspective. Like, okay, now you really have to wonder which edge he's dropping into coverage. Are these guys both blitzing me? Do we have someone else coming up the middle? DTD is going to be there too. Like I think it's interesting, but also there are serious concerns for me there, especially when it comes to stopping the run, which was our biggest issue last year. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I'm with you. I don't like the 2-4-5 peso package that they run. I just don't. I get why it worked at Washington and maybe as a situational package, but I'd rather we kind of are in our normal 3-3-5-ish look to where one of the two edges is kind of playing more in as an overhang opposed to truly like pinning your ears back in that 2-4-5. So that's just kind of my thoughts. Steven, I'm curious your thoughts on just the defensive scheme overall, kind of what we're talking about.
I think with Demo, my whole thing is I'm with you on 3-3-5, and 40 shows up right on time. I'm still team 3-3-5. Let's stop this run, and I'm using Demo in some. He's really one of my three, but he's at the line of scrimmage, so to speak, and whether it's rotating with Ovi or having some sort of ability to be in there in favorable downs for him. I don't think that Demo right now, never having played that position in terms of his weight, I don't know his strength or his ability to play with his hands or footwork with linemen out in space. I don't know if it's favorable for Texas to play him on first and 10, right?
Oh.
Like, I'm trying to be balanced and stop the run and get myself into 2nd and 8, 3rd and long, and now I can unleash the dogs. Now I can let him, stunt and do all these other things that we know naturally as an athlete he can do. I just don't feel comfortable yet just over here saying, oh, we found a solution. Now, we've seen crazy things happen in football, and we know for DeMarvion, his future's in the balance. And I know the player is aware of that. So something has to come on for him to take advantage of that. Also, what DD is there, and they have more natural linebackers and guys that can within the box. But I'd be, with his weight and everything, I just don't feel about him being a full-time, that's all he's going to do. There's going to have to be a lot of creativity there. I like the fact that we need another body there. So that's good. And they've recruited and done it in the appropriate manner. But I'm still emphasizing having my big boys in there and stop run first, and we figure everything else out later. That's my energy. I'm sticking with it.
My biggest concern was I was screaming, bitching and moaning for lack of a better term last season about us having 235-pound edges and then having linebackers that were 220, i.e. Demo. And I knew that he needed to put on size so we'd be able to take those hits when those linemen are coming into the second level, or be able to get a linebacker off of you. Or not to get a linebacker, get a tight end off of you. And now, like Homer said, I feel like it's tough for Demo. you've had 2 off seasons, or like all 3 off seasons, where you missed spring, like you missed winter conditioning. You weren't able to really put on size because you missed the entire spring. Then you finally get an entire spring, and now we're going to switch your position. I love it from a theory perspective. It could work, and these coaches know way more about football than any of us. They've forgotten more about football than any of us. So I'm extremely excited to see what they see. But also, if it doesn't work, man, that's really unfortunate. Not just for the team's like for the team's sake, but also for Demo himself, because I feel like he's an extremely talented player, and I don't want him to leave campus. And we're all sitting here saying, man, he just never really reached his full potential.
I'm with you, bro. I want it for him, but I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of seeing guys at Texas being misused and put in a position where they can't even be the best version of themselves. I'm tired of it. And we've seen this across especially at the line of scrimmage, whether it's offense or defense. And so I'm with it. I'm giving it a shot and looking at it and making sure that he's coached up and he feels confident in what he's being asked to do. But if he's more of a situational guy and he's just out there as, wrecking stuff, then I'm with it. But I don't want to see somebody out of position again, and then all of a sudden things are falling apart. I see super chats coming in here, so I want to get to some of these. Luke C, I saw you had one. Also, I want to give a shout out to Trey Moore from Texas Football Life, who was in here giving the backstory of Malik Muhammad's family in the Dallas area. Trey does great work over at Texas Football Life. Please go check his stuff out. Even though we about to whoop TCU's ass.
Yeah, he's a sorry ass TCU fan. Don't give him too much gas, all right? Not too much gas for Trey. Let's relax. Let's relax now, all right? Anyway.
All right. This first super chat from Luke C. Thank you for the donation, by the way, and everybody that's donated, thank you. Could we get 2 years Quinn, 2 years Malik, 2 years Arch? I mean, if we're playing NCAA football in an ideal scenario, yeah, but we know – like in NCAA football,
you can convince anyone to stay back.
You can structure it neatly that way. In a perfect world, yes. But we know how it is with whether it's injuries or people's, guys grow up a little bit, things change. I don't think it plays out necessarily that way, but it's so neatly because it never does. That's my response to that. It never, ever plays out 2-2-2 like that. I'd like for it and everybody shines, but the reality of the situation is, I think at some point, and this is just my opinion, I think at some point guys are, going to want to be that head guy, and we'll have to, Malik's really going to have to bring it when his opportunity is here. I do want to make my Arch point real quick. Homer brought this up earlier about in the chat just regarding the offensive line class for 2023 in state not being what it was, the last couple years, really, because 2020. We have to understand that just because somebody is ranked number 1 at their position or number 1 in their class, that does not mean that they are the same level every single year over year as the other people that were ranked there. Rankings, are for that individual year, but there are years where position groups are high, and there are years where the talent level is pretty low. I remember
Matt Barkley wasn't Trevor Lawrence.
That came out of. What'd you say?
I said Matt Barkley wasn't Trevor Lawrence in college.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
But they're both number 1 quarterbacks.
Exactly, number 1 player overall in their classes. Yeah.
And so you have, whether it's Spencer Sanders, Quinn Ewers, they're both number 1 quarterbacks. What we have to understand with Arch is he's not just the number 1 overall quarterback and number 1 overall player, but he is the number 1 overall quarterback in my opinion, and I know Kieran feels this way, in a loaded quarterback class for 2023. This is not a joke of a quarterback class, in my opinion. I see guys up and down this quarterback list that are very, very good. So we have to understand, and I like the way Steve Sarkisian is playing this because he has to go all in. But we have to understand as fans, we're going all in. And if we don't get Arch, it's going to be tough considering, I think the first 3 people overall is like Arch, Malachi, and Nico also as players, depending on where you're looking. So this is an unusually
Dante Moore's not far behind him either.
Real quick, I just want to say too, and Nico Yamaliava probably is going to get a bump up after at OT7. He just absolutely crushed it. Plus, this is kind of a little bit of an elephant in the room in the recruiting world, but like Elite 11, one of the best Elite 11 groups in recent memory is going to go down this week. And Arch isn't going to be there because he's at the Arch. Sorry, not at the Arch Manning Passing Academy. At the Manning Passing Academy. Maybe one day it'll be named that. But so I mean, that's going to hurt him a little bit from an evaluation standpoint. And it's one of those things where Arch Manning doesn't need to do that. Like, there's no true need. But when you get basically every other elite QB in the nation competing, and there are going to be a ton of evaluators in existence, like you're right, Steven. Like, I haven't talked with one analyst, whether it was my time at On3 or now at 247, who doesn't think that this is one of the best QB groups for a while. Like,
I think it's the best one I've ever seen. I'll say it straight up. Like, I legitimately think it's one of the best. And in my short time following recruiting, so 2012, when I first started really following recruiting, I think it's the best one that I've seen since then. It's incredible.
Dude, there are 3-star guys that, and being a 3-star isn't a slight, like it's not, but there are like 3-star guys I legit think could go in the first round. There's just so much talent. Like Austin Novosad from Dripping Springs, who we really don't even talk about that much, is like committed to Baylor, probably a top 10-ish overall QB and like he might flip to Ohio State, or he could even end up at Georgia if Arch goes. Like, there are just so many options. So yeah, I just from a recruiting nerd standpoint, Steven, you're on the money. It's a elite group of QBs.
The fact this is the fact though. The fact that you have the number 1 player in the country with a perfect recruiting ranking, and his last name is Manning, and there is a legitimate conversation that he's not even the best player in his state. In his state, Eli Holstein, 15-0, state champion, 6'4", extremely athletic, crazy talent. That's like the fact that that's like even a conversation just tells you how deep and loaded this quarterback class is. It's incredible.
And when you talk about Eli Holstein, most guys are like, oh yeah, he's probably like 7 or 8. He's again committed to Alabama as a stud of a player. Like, again, Jackson Arnold's the best QB in Texas, and he's committed to Oklahoma, has a ton, Ohio State offer, Georgia offer, etc. But he's kind of lower down the list as well. I mean, you mentioned Dante Moore, Kieran. Like, Dante Moore probably is almost, I think in most classes would probably be the number 1 QB in the nation. Like, he's kind of like a Detroit version of Tua, with maybe even a little bit more pop coming out of high school. Like, there's just so many dudes. And I know a lot of the people in the chat probably don't care because it's not super Texas related. But what Steven's saying is, when you consider that Arch is number 1 of this group, that's where it gets really interesting.
It's crazy. Dante Moore, like you're really looking at it. I think we might end the year with 5 or 6 5-star quarterbacks, because that's how talented I think they are. Like, you already have 4 right now that are surefire 5-stars. I think you might end the year with 5 or 6.
And also considering the fact that positional value really matters a ton for the rankings, is because the rankings are strictly graded off of where guys end up getting drafted. There's a little bit of debate to whether that's the best, but that's kind of how every site does it. And when you're thinking about positional value, like, it makes more sense to make a QB a 5-star than it does a running back, which, again, there's some quibbles you can make about the merits of that system of ranking guys.
Saw a comment in here that I just wanted to get to briefly. Sorry, some Homer stuff, but I saw someone said, Lando7448 said, guess who transferred to Duncanville for basketball? Just wanted him to follow up on that, but let's go ahead and continue.
Oh, that's Trey, by the way.
Oh, that's Trey?
That's Trey.
Okay, never mind.
It's KJ Lewis.
Oh, it's KJ?
Mm-hmm.
You said KJ Lewis?
Yep.
Interesting. Wait, kid from El Paso?
Yep. Apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, hey, I'm all for it. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, no, but back to this quarterback class. This is, man.
It has the potential to be an all-timer.
Yeah. Like you said, like
it has the potential to be an all-timer.
Looking at Dante Moore, I'm like, man, in any other class, like this is. I thought last year's quarterback class was incredible. The fact that Devin, not Devin, Devin Brown, Devin Brown,
Devin Brown ended up number 1 on 3. I know that basically every other site kind of had him, lower than that, but I mean, Cade was really good. Wigman was really good. Overall, it was just a great group.
If yours is in that class too, you'd have something crazy. But
Steven, I know we have a ton of super chats to get to as well, so I know that you're probably loaded up with those.
Yeah. I see, JR's comment about Holstein. The other thing I was going to say with him, I think he at the opening recorded a 38-inch vertical and ran 4.6. And at his size, I mean, those are like Josh Allen type traits. Mm-hmm. And so these are things we have to just make sure that God bless, we get Arch Manning, we develop him, and we get the best out of him as possible. So we don't look back at this class and say, damn, what if? Did we just go all in because of the player? So I just want to make sure we are cognizant of good thing here is. Mike Gosnell, I can't get back to your super chat, but I saw you said thank you for your donation. You said Jonathan Brooks breakout season. Hopefully that's in blowouts. And, Bijan and the gang is healthy. But we are big Jonathan Brooks fans on this channel. Don't get it twisted. Yep. Was it you that had a hot take about Jonathan Brooks, Kieran?
Me? Yeah. If you have to ask yourself who had a hot take, it's 99% me. Chances are it was me. Yeah, it was definitely a hot take about Jonathan Brooks. I predicted that he finishes the year with more rushing yards than Roschon Johnson.
Okay.
I know that's a hot take. But I think situationally he's going to get in some fun. This is my thing. I think later on down the season, you're going to start realizing, okay, we can put in Jonathan Brooks in this series and trust him to go out there and get us some solid yards. Now, obviously, you want Bijan Robinson in the football game, but when that guy needs a rest, I don't want to overwork him. I really don't. When that guy needs a rest, I think Jonathan Brooks is I understand Keelan Robinson is there, but as far as who's going to get me the most yards on a down-to-down basis, I think Jonathan Brooks is your guy. But that's my take. I hope that he doesn't have to play as much as I'm hypothesizing, because Bijan Robinson, I want to see him get as many carries as possible. But for his interest, his pro career, all of that, I think he's gonna. Or Steven, we suck. We're 3-3 through 6 weeks, and Bijan's like, hey, I'm closing up shop. Then my prediction's correct again. You know what I mean? So you never know. Because if it was me, I'm telling my kid to sit out if we're 3-3 through 6 weeks, straight up. But that's just my take.
Hey, Marlon, yes, we did discuss Reuben Owens and the Jack Carlo bags that are going out via KFC. We did discuss that earlier, brother, but check that out. We talked about Owens and segued that into Cedric Baxter Jr. Luke C., your super chat. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate you as always. You're always donating to the channel. Appreciate it. I think everybody's honest about the Arch Camp thing. I mean, I'm cool with that. I mean, I feel the same way. We all want to see him compete at Elite 11 against these young guns. Some of these Elite 11 matchups, these are the things that turn into Sunday Night Football, NFL. You're watching it, and they start showing clips of when this quarterback's matched up with this guy. We definitely want to have those moments. At the end of the day, the beauty with Arch Manning is the floor. He is so polished and already ready to go. I want to give a shout out to my man Jonathan over at Locked On Longhorns, who did a podcast earlier, and they were talking about the similarities with a guy like Andrew Luck at Stanford. And I think Jonathan made a great point, his guest John Garcia, just in terms of the little things and the intangibles that these guys that are well trained bring to the quarterback position that keep you on time, that are able to get guys the football in space and take advantage of defenses and not be confused, especially in the intermediate part of the field. And so that's where some of the separation comes in. I thought they made a great point over there on Locked on Longhorns. So I'm thrilled about Arch as a prospect. Let's not get that twisted. It's okay to say, hey, we have these thoughts here. We want them to go to camps. I agree. I want my guys competing at all levels. But we also, it was cool to see Malik Murphy compete at Elite 11. Quinn competed at Elite 11. Totally agree with it. But
real quick, Steven, too, I just want to hop in. I think that the point somebody, I forgot who in the chat made, of like, look, Arch is already the number one prospect. It's kind of a lose-lose. I definitely get that from their perspective. And I do wish they would compete in these. But somebody mentioned this to me kind of in the Manning circle, and I think it's really interesting look, Elite 11 is almost as much of a teaching experience as it is a opportunity to showcase. Like Trent Dilfer and a lot of those guys out there at Elite 11, like part of it is teaching the more nuanced aspects of the quarterback position to these young kids. Arch Manning does not need that. And that's not even being arrogant, but like his aptitude is just that high that he kind of doesn't need to do that. And from the Manning's family perspective, it's like, yeah, hey, I think we know a thing or two about producing quarterbacks and what they need for their development. So that's the give and take there.
That's what I was saying. I was in a discussion with some people in the Twitter space. They're like he can go like work with Trent Dilfer, and I was just like, why would he? Like, I love Trent Dilfer. I think he's phenomenal quarterback mind. Why in the world would he care about working with Trent Dilfer when he has direct access to David Cutcliffe, to Peyton Manning and Eli Manning? Why would he care? Like, you know what? Peyton, Eli, chill out. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Let me go ask Trent Dilfer what he thinks. Now, granted, Super Bowl winning quarterback, a phenomenal player. He had a generational defense and looked like Eli Manning the second half of his career. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. I completely agree there. I think it is. It's a learning experience. It's fun competitively to go out there and test your skills. But Trent Dilfer versus Peyton and Eli.
Man,
and
Trent Dilfer's catching strays today. I didn't see
that's
that
not a stray.
coming.
That's a direct shot. Trent Dilfer. I'm not.
You did preface it. You're right. You did preface it, but I mean, good God.
I'm sorry, Trent.
Friend of the show, Trent Dilfer, not going to be happy.
My thing with in all fairness, just because you were a mediocre quarterback or whatever,
goddamn.
This happens in basketball too, right? You can always be a good coach or trainer. We see that with Jordan Palmer and guys like that are out there in the training game. But to your point, Arch Manning is in a unique situation, as unique as we've seen, in terms of leveraging his uncles. His grandpa.
I'm definitely tripping. I follow KJ Carter Samuel's Locked in QB Instagram page, and it's phenomenal content, 100%. And he was a self-admitted total bust in college football, but he knows what he's talking about. 100%. I'm sorry to Trent Dilfer for that slander. I don't know. I was getting a lot of heat. It was just like Trent Dilfer. I'm like, dude. Arch Manning, David Cutcliffe, the dude that was responsible for developing a heavy load of Arch and Eli. Dude's grandfather was an NFL quarterback. He's gonna be fine. I'm sorry, Trent. I didn't mean to catch a stray. You have accomplished more in this football game than I ever will. So my bad, Trent Dilfer. Still
notes app it. Okay, notes app it.
Yeah.
Here,
I know, honestly. He's a Rex Grossman Super Bowl win away from getting a lot of slack cut off of him. But it is what it is.
Shout out to the 2000 Ravens. They're working on, I believe, a 30 for 30 and filming that right now, if I'm not mistaken. So
you're gonna go through everything?
To be more. Yeah, they're gonna go through the whole Ray Lewis case.
Oh my God, they are.
Unfiltered, baby.
I'm all for the 30 for 30s. One of the greatest things they ever did was make me.
Hey, Hudson, I know you got a lot going on, man, and you gave us an hour of your time.
Steven, I'm good. I'm good for a little bit, as long as I don't get this call. I can whatever you're.
No, we Hawks on the phone right now, so let me check to make sure. I'm good. All right, we can continue here then. because chat. What else y'all? Let's talk to the chat real quick because I want to make sure I didn't miss anything of interest here.
I also wanted to ask you guys about some team oriented things. Can you guys hear me?
It's fading a little bit.
Quiet.
I don't know. That's weird. I was going to ask you guys about some team oriented things. Offensively, I think there's been like really great reports about Ajay Hall going out there and producing. I was wondering if you had any updates on that, Hudson.
Just kind of more of the same. I mean, he's just built like a freak. I always say that when you look at his physical profile, like his stuff from high school where he's truly 6'3.5" with I think 81-inch wingspan, freaky long arms, shuttle 40 or crazy, that he is built when you kind of put the data for as far as relative athletic score, he's built like a Julio Jones regen. Now, people are always like, Hudson, you're always comparing Ajay Hall to Julio Jones. I'm not. I'm just saying they're built physically. So when you're in 7-on-7 and he's just immediately dominating the pass skelly, it's kind of easy to really think about what his fit in the offense looks like, especially because I had a source tell me that, Brennan Thompson's looked good early, but there's a little bit from the overall maybe coaching staff and the off the field guys of, well, when we get into pads, it's going to be a little bit harder for Brennan to keep up that same level of act. They almost feel the opposite with Ajay Hall, where they think that when Ajay gets in pads, it's almost going to be like that more physical. Like he's going to be able to bring that physicality more to the DBs instead of the vice versa with Brennan. So it's interesting.
I'm excited for it. I really am. Also, I heard like on the Blitz this past week, they were talking about Keelan Robinson, a lot about where he could fit in this offense, where he could move around. Obviously, Brennan Thompson, we heard phenomenal things about earlier on, in them playing 7-on-7. I'm excited to see how they use him and Keelan Robinson on the field, possibly at the same time, because I love some speed. If you know me, I love some speed.
Hey, JR was getting on you earlier about not mentioning Keelan when you brought up Jonathan Brooks. So I'm sure JR is going to be happy to hear you gassing up Keelan now.
I love Keelan. I think Keelan next season, if he still has eligibility, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's still going to have eligibility after this season. I think
Thanks,
next
Juan.
season
Appreciate you.
you're gonna. Well, yeah, his freshman year is 19, so he definitely has eligibility after. Yeah. No, I think we're gonna see a lot of Keelan next season. But this season, that room is loaded.
His best shot are those two back sets because he's more of a compliment than Rashawn is, even though I think Rashawn's excellent. So I think the two back sets or just getting a lot of motion, whether it's true like jet sweep touch passes or just kind of bringing a safety over with him in motion. Like that's what he needs to really contribute.
I'm excited to see.
We
it.
got
Outside
a super
of Arch,
chat here,
which
fellas.
recruit? Yeah, I was reading that one. Outside of Arch, which recruit do we need most? That's a good question.
I'll go last on this one. I'm curious what y'all think.
Go ahead, Karen. I'll go after you.
Ooh, I can't make a whole point about valuing the DBs and not say it. Okay. Which one do we need? Oh, actually, this is another good point because I read your article that you posted about 40 minutes ago. Good little plug. I would argue if he's in the fold, if we're still in it, Anthony Hill is a must get. If there's a possibility of us getting him, Anthony Hill is a must get. So I'll let you go next, Steven. I like Anthony Hill or Javian Toviano. Those would be my two.
So I'm actually going the same area as you, Kieran. With the recent news about Darian Gillette, I think Texas should try to close the deal on that. And I know some people might feel some type of way because of the injury now, but just with how he profiles and he's up there, some people think with the Anthony Hill, I'm gonna go Gillette for me, especially now. Like this to me, when somebody goes to something like that, this is the time to kind of show. I think wasn't it Denver Harris that got hurt last year? One of these top guys got hurt and it was fine. I don't know if it was one of these top guys, but Gillette is a guy who, I've become a big fan of very, very quickly. But I'll pass it to Hudson.
I actually have an update for you on that injury. They're getting a second opinion on Gillette's knee, and he is not having as much swelling or pain as he initially thought. And so there might be a chance to where it is some sort of a little bit of a more minor injury than they anticipated. So there's even a chance that Gillette could even maybe play this year for Marlin, which would be fantastic. Here's how I think is the best way to frame this. Personally, I kind of view Gillette and Hill in the same tier. So I would say that linebacker 1/edge 1 spot are the most important, because I think both of them are kind of being pitched on first and second down. You're going to play in the box. That's where we want you. But on third down, we're going to move you all around the field and have you coming off the edge to really get after the passer. Because personally, I think a lot of evaluators see both of them maybe their best, ceiling being at edge at the next level. So I think that's the best way to classify those. Just get one of those two guys, split it. And almost the same thing in what will be my answer, just get a cornerback one. Just get one of Tobiano, Muhammad, or Matthews, and I think that's the most important one on the board. You just don't want to end up with one of these 3-level spots, whether it's edge, linebacker, or corner, where you get left into the cold and you're taking, even though there are good players, Texas isn't going to take any bad players unless in the 23 cycle, unless they just, kind of shit the bed on the field in 22. But I don't know. Overall, that's how I would kind of classify it.
Kieran,
what do y'all
Peter said
think
you
about
need to come
DJ?
home.
We might be making the move back to Texas by the end of the year. We don't know right now, but we'll see. Kind of keeping that one up in the air. The fact they call it Holly Weird is hilarious.
Oh, go ahead.
Not over by Hollywood.
Oh no, I was just reading a chat that said, "What do y'all think about DJ Hicks?" And it was just, if Texas goes 10-2 or 11-1, then we'll see.
Yeah,
Trey, do you have
not
Trey in the chat? Do you have an update on DJ Hicks? He's out there in Katy now. That's your area that you cover. So if you have any, is he what, A&M right now?
A&M, OU, Oregon, like he's in Miami, maybe he's keeping it super open. But A&M and OU are the two that feel the most confident.
Which I guess is a really good question. What out-of-state prospects do you think we have the highest chances with?
Thank you. Hook 'em.
Oh, could you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. I was just reading the super chat. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all good. Yeah, I was just going to say, what out-of-state prospects do you think we have the highest chances?
I mean, I think that the two Louisiana guys right now, Jordan Matthews and Arch Manning, those are straight up. It was this question.
Arch Manning.
Yeah, this question is good, but I always used to have an easy answer of just Will Randall, next question, because that was, kind of a done deal. Ooh, we got a $10 super chat. Let's go.
Hey, you guys are too kind. This is the first time we've had these, our 3-man weave on, and I think you guys are enjoying it. So we appreciate it, and we got to do more of these because our group chat is awesome. Now we get to bring our group chat to, you guys on the screen. So this is great. Thank you so much, Q. Thank you, D. Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate you, brother. You long time, OG. Baxter Jr. in terms of the out-of-state people.
Yeah, that's a good one, Steven.
What about old boy from Hawaii?
Yeah, I mean, that's a sneaky one that I think people aren't giving enough. Texas is definitely in the mix for Leona Leifau. That's another good one. Is Hicks a December guy? He's going to commit at the Under Armour All-American game, I believe, in July. So, or maybe it's February. It's past December. So he'll be a National Signing Day 2 guy. I have a question for y'all, team related. Who is your kind of sneaky hipster breakout candidate for this year? Either side of the ball, whatever reasoning you want to apply. I think I have an answer. I'm curious what y'all are thinking pre-fall camp.
I don't sneaky. I think if anybody's sneaky and they're going to break out, it'd be defensively. But I'm extremely high on Jatavian Sanders this season. If I'm going to pick one that I think is going to have so much so that I think he's going to shock people. I think he's legitimately going to be a serious problem out there in that football field. Jatavian Sanders has really been putting in the work throughout the offseason. Love that dude. Incredibly hard worker. I kind of cooked him on my Instagram story yesterday because he looked like he was running from the cops or something. It was in that little training clip, he's running hard as hell, like somebody stole something from him. It was crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna say Jatavian Sanders is gonna have an incredible season this year. Not just okay, an incredible season.
Before I answer Hudson's question, did you want to give your defensive guy?
Oh yeah, defensively, Keaton Crawford. If Keaton Crawford play, I understand there's still is he figuring it out right now? When that dude gets on the field, he is going to make plays happen. He's going to come downhill, smack people. He's going to get some picks. He's going to return a pick for a touchdown this year. That's another bold prediction that I have. Probably in the Texas OU game. He's going to pick off that sorry-ass Dylan Gabriel, and we're going to win that game. Anyway, sorry.
I hope
Chris Griffin isn't here.
Somebody remember that. Somebody hopefully clip this. And not an OU fan. If it's not true and we lose again, then disregard.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you. Keaton Crawford, I think, is a straight-up dog. And I think he's been dying to get on the field for years now. I honestly think last season you should have just ran with him and Jade when things started going badly. I don't know why that didn't happen, but we'll see. I got Keaton Crawford defensively. Love him.
Hunter Osborne out of Alabama, who was here this past weekend and believe hosted by Fink. So he's another out-of-state guy. JR had to remind us since JR is out there in Alabama. We haven't forgotten about you, brother.
That's one of the kids I'm closest with in this class, and I had a bunch of updates about him. Hunter's awesome. I just kind of think at the end of the day he's going to go to Clemson. But Texas is in that top group, so we'll see. They need to get him back on campus before he decides in late August.
Juan, thank you for saying how good this podcast is and everything we do. I just want to say my favorite for forever, before I started on YouTube, I've always been a Longhorn Blitz guy. Rod, Jeff, Matt, those guys over there. I know Jeff is a teammate of yours, Hudson, but they've been the OGs, and so I have to give them their flowers. That is probably my favorite overall content out, and it just they've been on forever. So I just want to give them their flowers, and I don't do it enough on this channel. To answer Hudson's question, I was actually going to pick Jatavian, so I'm going to go in a different direction. Offensively, I'm going to go the interior of the offensive line. So I'm going to go, whether it's Angular, we know Angular Majors, but whoever's playing guard, whether it's Campbell starting out there, or if they're able to, move in Hayden Connor, or if it's Cole Hudson. All those names I mentioned, I feel like they can play football. And I feel like we'll be able to run inside zone. I'm not saying we're going to go crazy with it, but I think we'll be able to run it enough to where we can get back into our RPO stuff. And I think those guys have the combination of experience and talent coming in to be able to pull and to be able to get out in space and do some creative things in terms of run blocking. Karen and I have had this conversation before many times. Want to get our best run blocking group out there so we can be able to get into our play action stuff and get stuff developing downfield, especially out of 12 personnel. So I'm going to go interior offensive line. My questions are still on at tackles, just because of the challenge that presents with the bodies we have there. Defensively, I'm actually going to go Baron Sorrell, just because I really like what I saw in terms of his physical development. Granted, it's one scrimmage at the spring game, but I liked what I saw from him in the brief flashes he got to play with those 4 games they get to mess around with. But defensively, my sneaky guy is going to be Baron Sorrell, and I'll go interior offensive line. I think people will be pleasantly, will be pleased with the interior run blocking this season.
I like that. I think I'm just going to straight up go DJ Campbell. I think that he eventually will start and he'll be the big breakout guy. And on the defensive side of the ball, I've seen a couple of this in the chat. I think that Maurice Blackwell is going to end up contributing and be the true hipster, like out of left field, making plays in that. I think he'll probably be in that star hybrid defensive back linebacker role. I could even see him just getting some run at linebacker if it kind of came to it. So I like that. I like that choice. And I saw a couple Jahdae Barrons. I think Jahdae Barron might kind of be our best defensive player by like game 3 or 4. So I don't even know if that's a hipster one. I don't even know. Maybe Tavondre Sweat. I don't know if that's hipster-ish either, but I could see him with his athletic profile. If he can just keep the motor up, that would be a really good one.
No. Man, I call Blackwell
game speed. That's my nickname for him, game speed. Because the spring game, he was hitting like it was OU.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised Tran didn't run out on the field whenever I saw him hit Worthy. Because Tran was ready to fight. He was ready to fight Brendan Schooler when he hit Bijan out of bounds. Dude, he put a lick on Worthy. I'm surprised I didn't see Tran like stand up and get up out there. It was crazy.
I said it then. That's the hardest I've seen Worthy get hit in a Texas uniform.
Yeah, probably.
Like squared up.
Yeah.
Thank God he got up, because that entire stadium would have just had a collective panic attack.
Yeah. No. I just don't want to see it at all. Also, happy Bijan didn't play. I think everybody was like, yeah, thank God. He's not playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the good thing about having the running back room like that. It was like, all right, the walk-ons are in. And Jaden Blue, the second-ranked running back in the country, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess that's what having 6 elite guys will do or whatever it is.
It's weird how we went from 3 seasons ago having to put in Roschon Johnson, move him from quarterback in like 2 weeks, and then play him against LSU to now we're like, oh, we're so deep. I don't even know if he had spots for you. It's
like Jonathan Brooks at like any other Power 5 school would probably be there, but like,
no, I just think about like 2019, we had absolutely 0 team speed on the offensive side of the ball, and now it's just like, yeah, we got a 4-3 dude that we probably are not going to be able to get more than 5 touches in a game.
Tariq Milton's option like number 5, and he had like a second team all conference season.
It's wild. I think I actually wanted to get you guys' opinion on that. What are your thoughts on the Tariq Milton pickup? I know you guys have probably hit this a little bit before, but I feel like it's good insurance behind Jordan Whittington. I don't really think he's as dynamic of a playmaker as he was before his injury. But yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's insurance. I was big on when they were pursuing Addison. Hey, regardless if you get Jordan Addison or not, you have a depth need. And so Steve Sarkisian, I think when he was in San Antonio, he was the one, he said, I'm getting a linebacker and I'm getting a receiver. Like, that's what I need. And he got both. And those, and we know why he got, DTD, and we know Milton, if they couldn't get Addison, which you have to go after somebody like a Jordan Addison. I don't know why we were debating certain people on this channel about whether or not you pursue a top 10, top 5 college football player.
We got so much talent already. Why would we want Jordan Addison?
But once we weren't able to get him, or he went to USC, you still need to, have that depth for your roster. I saw somebody earlier put Jordan Whittington on here. And we know what our offense was when Jordan Whittington played last year and what it wasn't the moment he went down. But we can't give him – I want him to have the best final year ever because I love him. But we also can't bank on the health there. We can't bank on Troy's health. We can't bank on Jaden's health. There's a lot of guys we can't bank on. So just loading that room up with depth so you don't have to just go all in, Brennan Thompson, here's all this crap on your plate right away. I think that's just best case scenario for everybody. He's a veteran. He knows the conference. He can play special teams. He's return kicks. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for me with Tariq Milton. Mary has a super chat here. Shout out to Mary, good friend of mine over in the Twitterverse. Thank you for the donation, Mary Hookham. She wants to talk about GP. And, Trey and I have talked about GP a little bit when Trey came on. But, I remember before the spring, I said I wanted a GP tracker on him just in terms of where his fingerprints may show up on this football team. I personally still think it will be more DB related. I've been big on, wanting them, just his philosophy of having DBs that can play man coverage confidently, having guys that are positionless, so to speak, and can move around. Now we know we're not positionless in terms of our scheme, but the skill sets and hey, maybe this guy needs to spin down to this position. Maybe this guy needs to move over to safety. Things of that sort. So any updates or anything, behind the scenes regarding one Gary Patterson?
I think overall what we just hear, and especially from the spring, was it's less of a hands-on, like, okay, I'm working with the DBs. I'm telling, Terry Joseph and Blake Gideon they need to do this. But it's more of a overall kind of auditing the program. And I think this is working well. Maybe we should, take a look at moving this guy from corner to nickel because we can then do this. More of just, I guess, suggestions and overall kind of helping Sarkisian have another set of experienced eyes looking at the program, kind of like a CEO would, and less about what I initially thought, which would be more hands-on. This is how we're fixing the defensive back play. Because I agree with somebody in the chat who said it. I think, John, it was some of the worst safety play I've ever seen at Texas. So that is priority number one when you're looking at this defense. And that's why they moved Anthony Cook to safety. So,
Yeah, I knew it was one of the worst seasons for our safeties when I saw Brendan Schooler blow up Deshaun Jameson against Texas Tech. Laid the lumber on him, man. It was a hit. But yeah, I honestly love Gary Patterson's philosophy when it comes to having. I mean, honestly, it's a thing that that Pete Kwiatkowski had up at Washington with Jimmy Lake. He wants guys that can cover at all 5 DB positions. And at the end of the day, that's what I feel like we're going to have this year with the 5 DBs that we throw out there, especially if you have like a Keaton Crawford, Anthony Cook, Johnny
He has
Barron.
2 former corners back there, Kieran.
Exactly. Guys that can, especially, and honestly, the one thing that I haven't really talked about too, the reason why I'm so high on Keaton Crawford is athletically, I think he's the best safety we've had back there in a minute since Brandon Jones. I don't think anybody has that sort of range and athleticism back there at safety since Brandon Jones. And now we're talking about Brandon Jones, who's killing it right now in the NFL. I don't think we've had that sort of athletic profile playing safety in a minute. And I really like Keaton Crawford's fit there. And I think that should be the standard going forward at that field safety position. I want a guy that's capable of running sideline to sideline and making plays. But
I would probably add Caden to that group too. But
yeah, healthy.
I would have loved to see. It's funny you say that you bring up Brandon Jones. I honestly would have loved to see Brandon Jones and Caden Stearns coached by this crew versus, kind of the stuff they both had to deal with and how many different positions they played during their time here at Texas. I do think, the way they would have been featured would have been different. So I agree. But I agree in terms of the physical profile, speed, coverage ability, being able to play the ball in the air. You definitely get that with Keaton Crawford.
I left out Caden Stearns, but I'm more talking about a healthy Caden Stearns. I think the dude was nursing an injury for 48 straight months.
Yeah, he was never healthy after his freshman year.
No,
really, his whole career at Texas, he was never healthy.
Yeah, well, you could say that about a lot of players under the Yancey McKnight strength and conditioning program. Not to throw a shot. It's not a stray. You know what I mean? Well, I'll say that's a little bit of a stray, but yeah, I don't know. Hearing Watson father talk about I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but yeah.
My buddy Brandon down from San Antonio, shout out to Along the Wire podcast down there in the 210. hopefully this is redemption season. Fozzie ended up having a little bit of an NFL career. I think he even played in the Super Bowl with Carolina Panthers, if I'm not mistaken. And so hopefully he can get right, and Jordan follows that same type of path. I saw somebody here mention, I think it was Randy. Randy, this isn't something we necessarily want to see, bro. Is this a prediction? Because this would be, to me, this would be bad, right? Like this would be very, very bad.
Very bad.
Very, very bad. We don't want to. We want PK to succeed, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I want Gary Patterson to stay right where he is, and I want PK to succeed. And whoever gets credit after the fact, I don't really care. But I don't think we should be encouraging this.
Also, Gary doesn't want to do that. Like he wants to be in this kind of grandpa type role where he can just make country music and oversee a football program. I have something kind of random for you both. I've seen a couple times in the there were a couple people who have been watching from the beginning that were asking about the 22 offensive line update. I promise before we get off that I'll hearing off those guys. But I've seen a couple people mention like Xavier Worthy ? Bijan Robinson ? As a content creator, I kind of don't know what to say about those guys other than they're really good. I can't wait to watch them play football. Like, there's no update. Everything you hear from sources are, yeah, those guys are great. They're good. So I kind of don't know what to talk about with them other than just potentially, what is the level of stats they could get in a fully weaponized Texas offense. Like, that's kind of the only angle I can even think about talking.
We are such a scarred fan base. We have got to be one of the most scarred fan bases. This is just like, is there any update on one of the best running backs in the nation? Like, we're just not used to having this type of talent.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they're all Americans.
What's going to happen with Bijan and Worthy? Are they still going to be good next year? Like, yeah. Probably. Yeah. We're talking about some of the best players in the country. It's not like it's a question anymore. It's like you feel like usually we're just like, well, he was like a 4 or 5-star recruit. What's going to happen? It's like, no, these guys actually produced offensively. Like, oh man, that's funny. That's funny. I mean, that's how I feel like coming into to another season with quarterback issues. It's like, okay, like what's going to happen? But like, say Quinn goes out there and produces. I don't think we're going to be asking like the next year, what are we going to get out of Quinn Ewers? Like you feel like that to me is the mark of a good football team. I talk about this team all the time because I followed Oregon extremely closely, early 2010s when Marcus Mariota went out there. Every season it was like, I know what I'm going to get. Marcus Mariota is going to go out there, be extremely efficient, not throw like he's not going to throw 5 interceptions all season, and he's going to play extremely well. Like, that sort of consistency is what you want at your program. And the fact that we're actually at a point where we can say, like, yeah, we got 2 players that are likely going to be really good. Like, I'm excited for that. But
hey,
God, we're so scarred
behind enemy lines here. He did get me on video, and this is a very accurate statement when it happened. And thus game speed, aka Mo Blackwell, was born. This is very, very accurate. This comment here.
Shout out to him. He had to watch the Women's College World Series in person. Oh, hey, at least we made it to the final though. That was amazing.
Hey, thanks for going out there to support those ladies over there, horns behind enemy lines. You did, you're doing over there doing the Lord's work. I'm with you, Mary. I'm with you. I don't know. Somebody said Randy was preying on our downfall, trying to get Gary in there already. We got to stay positive. Yeah, Marlon, knock it off. Talking about Marlon over here talking about Bijan Turner and Jonathan Gray. Knock it off, brother.
Jonathan Gray had an Achilles made out of string cheese by this point in his career. No, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be good.
Yeah. He said LMFAO. Yeah. Laugh that off. Take a lap, brother.
Any Bijan or Worthy injury talk needs to get up out of here.
Listen.
Okay, actually, I wanted
clear as I did.
Go ahead.
Hang on one second, Karen. hang on one second. I'm gonna say this clear like I did on Twitter. Bijan Robinson coming into the 2022 season is the best running back in college football, in my opinion. He's the best returning running back in college football coming into the 2022 season. If he stays healthy, he's going to be dynamite. Okay, I'm not worried about him. Xavier Worthy is a top 5 receiver in college football right now. We can go through. You can rank, all the guys. I got JSN number 1 right now and Addison 2. But after that, there's a conversation to be had. We have guys that are home run type talent. Everybody in the country they would start for. And so we have to understand that when we were dealing with this type of talent in this type of scheme, these guys produced last year with so much crap falling just all around them, and they still were delivering the way Xavier Worthy played against Kansas and getting targeted damn near every. Bijan Robinson is running into boxes where there's just no chance. I mean, we have to understand what type of talent we're dealing with. I agree with Hudson. This is just a conversation of what they'll do statistically. But now hopefully this translates to wins. That's the goal. Okay. Stats and stuff are cool. I want people to be all conference. I think I saw Phil Steele's thing come out recently with the all Big 12 teams, and those guys were on there. So we know what we got with our home run hitters. As long as they're healthy, we know what they're going to do. It's the Nayors of the world. It's the Jatavian Sanders of the world. It's the Quinn Ewers of the world. If those guys can come along and play up to their abilities and their talent level, if Jordan Whittington can give us what he was giving us before he went down, this offense will be in an elite space, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, we haven't even mentioned Isaiah Nayor yet, and he's like running 22-mile-an-hour sprints in practice and is like 6'3", 6'4", whatever. So, I mean, that's just again, it is an embarrassment of riches. We'll see how it plays together. The expectation I think should be top 10, if not like top 5 offense, because of the embarrassment of riches they have at all the skill spots. And then I guess real quick, just on the 22 offensive linemen, I heard that DJ Campbell and Kelvin Banks showed up looking really good, ready to compete. Cam Williams has dropped so much weight, but still, and I saw it with my own eyes when I was there covering the Elite Bash recruiting visit. He's still very clearly one of the biggest players on the team, if not the biggest player on the team, but he's lost enough weight to where we're getting these reports about him just being able to move so much better than they were expecting. When we're talking about 22 offensive linemen as well, like, again, people keep forgetting Cole Hudson was starting at the end of the spring. And when we watch him in the spring game, he was one of the better offensive linemen. So they're not just going to, because all these other 22 offensive linemen are on campus, be like, okay, Cole, we'll back with the rest of them. No, I mean, he's going to keep that momentum moving forward. And then you have Nato Amozolo, who is a kind of like top 75-ish player in the nation that, again, just physically looks like I've told this story a bunch of times, so apologies if anybody in the chat has heard this before. But I had a coach who was a source at one of the spring scrimmages that was like, yo, I can't tell who this guy is, but I think there's somebody from the portal visiting that's an offensive lineman. Like there has to be some portal offensive lineman. Can you tell who this is? And he sent me a picture and it was NATO. And it was just, he looked so big and so mature for his age that he confused him for an already like 3 or 4 year college starter. So like everything we're hearing is so positive. And, the guys that are established on the offensive line have to bring it or else their spot will be taken. Like Sark and Flood aren't going to just let guys run out. Like they'll start as many as they need to when it comes to the later part of the year. I don't think that you're going to go into the Alabama game with like 2 or 3 true freshmen starting, but we'll see.
What's good, AP? Hey, thank you for the super chat. I thought this was Marlon. I'm sorry. I thought it was my boy Marlon. Maybe it's somebody else. But Dimple Wonder, appreciate you, brother. Thank you. And okay, he said he was making Now you're always in here joking around, so I know where you're coming from. But I apologize. I apologize for calling you Marlon. I thought you were my friend Marlon. I apologize, brother. Isaac knows who he is. And again, thank you. Kieran, somebody asked you about rushing totals for Brooks.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would say he puts up. I think Roshan's gonna get. It's hard for me to say Roshan's going to get less carries in a year that I think he's become the best back that he like. He looks incredible this year. I'd say he puts up a good 550. I know that's hot take. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to put up 550 this year.
Look, I like the spikes. I think that we should have more. I think we should have more hot takes.
Let's see. How many yards did he put up last year? 143 on 20 carries. 6.8 yards a carry is phenomenal. I mean, like, I don't care who you're going up against. That's a really good stat. Yeah. I mean, he only got carries in 3 games last year. I think he's going to get carries in 6 or 7 this year. But we'll see. Kieran is a Pistons fan. I am not. My mother traveled a lot for work and collected pennants. I am a diehard Dallas Mavericks fan. I just have stuff from Detroit. I haven't put up the rest of the pennants yet. Yeah, no, definitely not rocking with Detroit. Shout out to Cade Cunningham though. He's from the D. You know what it is. He's over where he's from where Stevens' neck of the woods is now. But
yeah, Arlington.
It's a good time. Yep. Yeah.
Shout out NFL or NBA draft Thursday night, by the way. NBA draft.
Oh, snap it! Right.
Everybody says 550. Or all
550's happening.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm telling you. He'll get.
Hey! All I know is if
he'll break a couple long ones. This is too bold of a take. I feel. Looking at the numbers, I'm like, damn. We'll see. Hey, we could be blowing some people out though. You never know. We could be blowing some people out. I don't know. We'll see. Tech.
Henry Melton can get 10 touchdowns in 05. Then it's possible.
All he needs is like 60 yards a game and blow it. I mean, what?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You don't think later on in the season
we need to be blowing people out. I think that's the point.
Yeah. I think we will be blowing some people out.
So
let's go ahead. Let's get a little temperature check. I want to ask the chat.
Oh no.
I want to ask the chat. What do you guys think a realistic expectation for our record this season is? Given how weak this conference is. Like you said, if you see my video, you know how I feel about the Big 12 this season.
Looking like some bitches.
Yeah, looking like some bitches to me, honestly. Yeah, I want to know what you guys think Texas is realistic. I mean, honestly, when I'm being pessimistic, I think an 8-4 season is on the table, right? My honest prediction, 9-3, 10-2 should be where this team is at. Should be. They should be in Dallas, and they should be a 9-3, 10-2 team. Straight up. Too much offensive firepower to not be in that position. Just me personally.
Vegas has the over under set at 8.
Vegas has us at 8 for over under.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And they have Oklahoma at 8.5, which a lot of OU fans are kind of struggling to deal with. I think they'll get 9.
I have a wild Oklahoma take that I just can't wait to let go during Texas OU week. Because when they come into that game with 2 losses, I can't wait to let it rip. I really can't. I really can't. When Casey Thompson and Marcus Washington tear them up, I just can't wait to let that take rip. But
I have a feeling with the OU folks, they're in that period of delusion that LSU people were in a few years ago. Where it's like, you guys are too far in the forest to see the trees because you haven't really been in this scenario before. And
damn,
what you're expecting for Brett Venables would be unprecedented for a first-year coach with everything that he lost. We really would that really would be some crazy stuff if they just ran it back with all these guys that came in that, you know, despite losing Caleb Williams and all these guys, like they're not seeing the bigger picture these things, and it's very reminiscent of LSU 2020 for me with in regards to OU.
And I think it really starts defensively too, because although schematically, Brent Venables way above Alex Grinch in my personal opinion. I think Brent Venables is going to do great things for that defense. He's a phenomenal developer. He doesn't need unbelievable talent all the time to feel good defenses. He knows what he's doing. So long term, I see that defense really getting it together. But to have the expectation to lose 4 NFL players in your front 7 and say that they're going to be better just because of scheme, you're smoking crack. You're smoking crack. I'm sorry. You're smoking crack. Hey, to all my OU fans, I love you guys. Stop smoking that Reginald. It's not
even hate. It's not even hate. No. Yeah.
It's just like I think if you go like I can definitely see, because the Big 12 is so weak this year, 100%. I can see them going 9-3, making it to the conference championship game. But to think they're going to walk in and just dominate this conference like they have the entire time, no. You're bringing in transfers from UNC and Hawaii. No, like I get it. They can play. Guys can play, but not going to happen the way that you think.
I have a couple points on this. This is like my favorite discussion when we're doing off-season talk. So first off, I'm absolutely with y'all, but it's still crazy that because of the respect OU has earned over the years, they're still the favorite in Vegas. Plus the Big 12 being as stinky as it is, that like
bitches, just call them bitches.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's where it is. But we're also setting it up to where maybe truly OU does have just some deal with the devil, to no matter what happens with their program, they're always going to make the right hire and they're always going to, end up in this spot. But what I actually kind of am starting to think is going to happen, it is going to be that 2020 LSU season, Steven. That's such a good comparison where everybody else can kind of see it coming. Vegas is putting the line at 8.5, but because things have always worked out for that fan base where it's, okay, Lincoln Riley's taking over for Bob Stoops, then we just become the best offense in the nation for 4 years in a row. And, all this stuff has happened to where it's, it just turns into one of those situations where the table kind of, it just pulls out from under them. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
What I don't think they realize is, truthfully, you are one quarterback injury away from being in quarterback purgatory. I think Nick Evers is incredibly talented. Shout out to his parents, Derek and Monica. Amazing people, really kind-hearted people. If you talk in these spaces, like me, I know me and Steven have talked to him a couple of times. Big 12 year 1, I don't see that going well for him. I think they want him to sit a year and take his time. General Booty. I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's just pretty much where they're sitting at. If he ends up getting hurt, like I don't know.
Here's one more thing that I just want to say too. I think I wouldn't be as ready to bookmark a couple of Oklahoma, and also I like Oklahoma fans, even though I hate Oklahoma more in the rivalry than I hate Texas A&M. Just as a former Texas grad, like I also like Oklahoma fans a lot more, just like they're more fun to interact with. But I do get in the bookmarking tweets category when I see the under Lincoln, they were just a bunch of scrubs that didn't care about football and we stunk all this time. And now with
top Venables, 5 coach,
he was holding us back.
Like the culture's better, the passion's there. That's where I'm just like, come on, guys. We haven't seen one. Don't buy into everything spring ball. But and also, I saw that CBS might actually have Texas as the favorite. I checked odds this morning, and I saw Oklahoma was plus 160 and Texas was plus 300 to win the Big 12 on, I believe it was DraftKings. But, that just goes to show you as well, what Vegas kind of thinks of the Big 12 and that they're both in the pluses. And I think the next is Oklahoma State at plus 550-ish. So, but yeah, that's the culture thing is just where I'm like, let's actually see it on the field before we're I know you kind of hate Lincoln now. What do they call him? Kieran or Steven, do y'all know? They call him something like the bitch out west or something
TBOW.
Yeah.
That
so
bitch out west.
I know the feelings are hurt, but let's just wait until we see it on the field before it's automatically the culture's better or whatever.
I think the funniest thing is just looking back at Seth and Chris on your show, like Texas OU week, just talking about how Lincoln, we have Lincoln. Sark isn't the same play caller as Lincoln. And then you get to the end of the season, he leaves them high and dry. Seth's like, Lincoln really just wasn't doing the things that he needed to. I'm happy that he's gone, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you're not. No, you are not. And then like just so many OU fans saying, Caleb's staying. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Caleb's not going anywhere. You guys wish that he went, and then he leaves. And the best clip is that one of Chris saying, if I'm sitting here gassing up Dylan Gabriel.
That was my best word.
Fast forward a month, and he's just like, hey, we got Dylan Gabriel. It's just like, it's so funny.
Because Chris wasn't the only one talking like that. It was so many of them that they transitioned from Caleb is staying, we're good, we're solid, bump Lincoln, to, oh, Dylan Gabriel's just insurance, to, well, we got Dylan Gabriel, we're good. Don't worry, don't worry about Caleb. It's actually better for our culture. We're actually going to be tougher, and back to blah, blah, blah. And ignore really why Brent Venables left the first time. So it's just, I get it. When you go through that type of breakup, you're not seeing clearly. You're not. And so I totally get, somebody leaving you in the middle of the night and going to LA on you, bro. That's tough. And so I've just been a good friend, a supportive friend for all my OU people to be there when I know they're going to crash, because right now they've been at the club just piping them back, right? And that crash is coming. We all know it. And it's not just us, it's college football. We know it's coming. We're going to be there as supportive friends. Some of you guys are married to people that I live here in Dallas-Fort Worth. So we're kind of all in the same area. Y'all are from here too, so y'all know how it is in this area of town. But no, I'm just going to be a supportive friend, because that breakup did something to those people. And so,
have y'all ever gone back to the original, once Lincoln left, the original first Caleb Williams tweet that was like, hey, all respect to Coach Riley, like he's got to do what's best for him, blah, blah, blah. And the replies are just like, Caleb, we love you. We know you'd never leave us. Like, you're the man. Like, that type of stuff. That is hard to look. And I know that every single fan base kind of has those cringy people that
100.
Do that. But it's tough to look back on now when it's just like, Caleb, you'd never betray us like him. And then Caleb was just like, yeah, not me.
The funniest thing was OU fans trying to convince themselves that he wasn't leaving after the bowl game, when he was just like, yeah, it's kind of up in the air right now. Like, he's not leaving. He loves them. He got all of those guys together to play in that bowl game, and he wanted to stay together with his team because OU is his. I was like, dude, if my quarterback if the quarterback of my team, if a player on my team is saying, we'll see what happens, instead of like, yeah, I'm coming back. Like, he's clearly going somewhere else. Like, it was bad, man. It was really bad. But they could go out there and whoop all of us again. Like, I still think Jeff Lebby's an amazing coach. I think Brent Venables is an amazing coach. I just think talent-wise, year one, it's not something that they're used to. It's not a Lincoln Riley type situation where you step into a situation where you guys are already Big 12 champions. You guys are already at that level. Yeah. He's already implemented his system. No, you had a complete crash. But that OU take, I cannot wait to let it go. I'm saving it for October. I cannot wait. I really can't.
You need to make a promo video, like a UFC countdown style, with all the clips of you leading up to the tape.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. I really can't wait.
I want to touch on just a couple more things before we wrap, because this has been great, and a couple things I got to get to. Baylor, like, in terms of the teams that are real threat, OU is still. I'm not saying OU is not a threat. We're just saying don't expect the OU we've seen under Lincoln Riley all these past years. I don't think they're going to be the juggernaut of that sake. Baylor being the defending champs with what Dave Aranda's put together, that's a team I'm paying attention to, and I know what they lost in the NFL. They lost a lot. However, if I look at the offensive line, the defensive line, they still have a lot of talent on both sides of the trenches. I believe Blake Shapen is an upgrade over Gary Bohannon at quarterback. I think they're going to get better quarterback play from Blake Shapen. I really liked how he spun the football at the end of last season. Baylor's a team that I'm really, really looking at with how well coached they are and what they bring back in the trenches. Am I tripping on that, or is that, these are some of the teams I'm kind of really, really paying attention to in terms of what could deter Texas from just completely taking over the conference this year?
Baylor, I feel like, is a very well-coached team. And I think because of that, because of what Dave Aranda has built there, I think they're going to be a really solid team, a really tough team to beat just week in and week out. But it's also hard for me to really sit here and be like, they're going to be tough when we should have blown the doors off of multiple of these teams. And we ended up just having crazy second half collapses. Especially with Baylor and Oklahoma State. Yes, Oklahoma State, I honestly think Oklahoma State's going to take a step back. What scares me in this year's Big 12 is we have historically had trouble going to the places that we're going to Stillwater, which is probably going to be a damn night game on prime time. We're probably going to be, because the last last time we had an extremely disappointing loss there. We were top 6 in the nation. Everyone was hyping us up, this and this and that. We went out there and we lost because Anthony Cook and then we're sitting out when Tom Herman had his entire debacle. That's the last time we lost. We played there before with Joseph Osai, where he single-handedly beat them.
Osai won the game in overtime. Go ahead, Hudson.
Oh no! I was just thank you, Josai.
I was also going to throw in there, we do have to go on the road to Lubbock, which is never easy. As bad as they are, it doesn't matter. They could be a terrible team. We never, ever have an easy time up there in Lubbock. That scares me about the Big 12 this year. But also on the flip side,
Joey's going to have them. I feel like Joey, his energy and they're still a year away probably and all that, but they'll be ready to play us when we get up there.
I'm going to have a Texas Tech over bet for the year. I'll say that. I think their total's at 5.5 right now. I'm probably going to go over on them. I don't think that you have good enough odds for them to even make a Big 12 title game, because I just can't see it happening. But I think that they'll be kind of sneaky good. Look, Stephen, to your point on Blake Shapen, I heard from a Baylor wide receiver that, because I was asking, why did Aranda make the call? Wouldn't it make more sense to wait to name the starter? You get Jerry Bohannon past the, I think, May 1st deadline for the portal. That way you for sure have 2 quarterbacks. Right. He just straight up said that, Shapen was so much better than him in the spring. Everybody on the team kind of knew it, and Aranda just had to make the, call as far as personality-wise. It would almost be not fair on a merit system not to give it to him. It would seem fake. So even though they did lose Jerry Bohannon, I think to USF, they love Blake Shapen, but is Blake Shapen truly good enough to be enough of a plus add to make up for a lot of the NFL talent that they lost?
Good point.
I don't know that. Oklahoma State on defense is going to be really interesting to see what they do. I mean, they lost their defensive coordinator, but reloaded with a stud hire. So
the 8th-year senior that they had at linebacker that left is the real excitement for me as an opposing fan, because Malcolm Rodriguez not being back there to torture everybody that he plays is.
Who, by the way, did you see Malcolm Rodriguez's draft testing?
No.
Malcolm Rodriguez was in the 90, other than his height, which was the reason why he fell to day 3. Dude, he was putting down ridiculous. I had no idea he was as athletic as he was, which is, I guess my bad, because all he did was, be one of the best defensive players in the conference for, like you said, 6 years. But dude, he was putting down ridiculous. I'll look it up while we talk, but it's just crazy how good that guy was. But I don't know. Does Kansas State do anything for y'all? Not really for me. And Iowa State, I think that they're going to regress a little bit. I think they'll be solid, but they're not going to be ridiculously. I don't think they'll compete for the conference.
My hot take is the only thing is the Heacocks there. Offensively, I think Iowa State's going to be terrible this year. Terrible. Like I don't see it for them offensively this year. But Kansas State, I do have more faith in them. I feel like they're consistently improving. They've sneakily had a really good couple of seasons. I mean, they went 8-4, 8-5 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like and hell, they went on the road earlier on in the season, beat Stanford. Also, just kind of fits to my narrative. The Pac-12 is absolute dog crap, which is why USC is going to win it this year. Anyway, it's another hot take for you guys. Just had to throw that one out. But yeah, Kansas State doesn't really do as much for me, but I am going to be interested to see what Adrian Martinez looks like. We have to go on the road to play them. That's a sneaky game.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have Deuce Vaughn, which just got brought up. Still have Deuce Vaughn there. Malik Knowles at receiver. Like the K-State, even like Adrian Martinez, right? I think the way he'll be used and the way that they use like Skylar Thompson will be very favorable to the quarterback. The thing with them was when Skylar Thompson went down or whenever he was banged up, whether it was what was the kid's name, Will Howard, and some of those other guys, they couldn't make a throw. Like there was such a drop off at that position. It was they could run and do the whole normal traditional K-State old Bill Snyder quarterback
Alex Delton type stuff.
Yeah, Alex Delton, all that.
Yeah,
but when it was asked to like just hit pop pass, they couldn't do it. So I do think Adrian Martinez can give them some stability there. We know how athletic he is. K-State's interesting. They have good secondary. I think they have one of the best probably two edge guys in the conference. Bringing back, that's actually one of the better guys in the country. I would say
the best guy in the conference. Will McDonald? I'd say probably the best edge guy in the conference. Will McDonald?
Either him or Will McDonald.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to Will McDonald. I was like, I think Will McDonald's the best one.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Real quick, Nick made a good point too. West Virginia is a sneak. I mentioned, I think, on a previous video that I'd probably play a West Virginia over. I think that's going to be a sneaky Big 12 contender, just because it's not a very good conference. So you could see a team making a move. I thought this was interesting. Other than Alabama and Georgia are both kind of in the minus 135 to I think plus 140-ish range to win the SEC. A&M has like a large plus. They're the third favorite to win the SEC, which hurts to say. But other than that, in the SEC, your next best odds to win the conference are like plus 5,000 for Tennessee, or I think plus 4,000 for Florida. So that just goes to show how Vegas views the Big 12, kind of to Kieran's point in his video of it's kind of up for grabs a little bit, which, not a lot of excuses for Steve Sarkisian if they can't get it done this year, because the offensive talent Texas has is just wild. Also, Kieran, I don't know if you saw my DM, but here's Malcolm Rodriguez's testing. 39.5-inch vertical, 10 broad, 4.5 240, 1.54 split, which is good for one of the best linebacker times all time. And then a 4.13 shuttle, which is, again, 95th percentile. No idea that Malcolm Rodriguez was that much of a freak testing.
How on God's green earth is that? That's wild. That's wild, man.
And I think he's a similar-ish. Now, DTED isn't the athletic freak that he is, I'm going to realize, but that's another reason with the 5'9"-ish linebacker that kind of what's worst record you'll accept. Ooh.
Oh, Dustin, thank you for the super chat. Hook 'em, brother. For me, it would be 8-4 with this schedule. That includes a loss to, say, Alabama. I know we're talking a lot about the conference, but we have to see some big time progress coming off of 5 and 7. So, and that's also for recruiting's sake. I think they've done as good a job as you possibly can, staying in the mix with all these guys. pursuing an Arch Manning coming off the season they just had. I do think aesthetics, and Hudson and I talked about this in our previous conversation, aesthetics absolutely matter. You want to have a sexy looking offense. You want a school where people are like, damn, are you seeing what Texas is doing schematically? So I think 8-4 for me is somebody said 7-5 if there's a bunch of injuries or something like that. We just get crushed with injury bug, maybe, but 8-4 for me is that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have as much margin as everybody else does. Like, I don't know if we're going to win 10 games, but I know I don't want to go below 8-4. That's kind of where I'm at.
Worst record you'll accept is acceptance essentially saying like, oh, I still think Sark might be the guy, or is it like, oh, like it wasn't terrible, you know what I mean? Because in my opinion, 8-4 is one win away from what I view as a very good season for us, which would be a 9-3 season. So like for me, acceptable would be, I don't want to light a fire in the Texas fan base. I'll say 8-4. You say 7-5 a season is acceptable, people are gonna get on you. So yeah, I'll say 8-4. I agree with you there. Damn.
Yeah, we saw what happened with Brian Davis.
Yeah. No. Oh my gosh.
Man. Look,
wait, didn't Brian Davis say the ceiling was 7-5 though?
Oh,
I think he just said that. I think he just picked them to go 7-5, but people weren't trying to hear that in the Twitter spaces.
I definitely
wasn't. This might be hot, but like, I don't know. Acceptable for me is like at the end of the day, like this is a good result. Even if it's 8-4 and the offense is humming, like you can't lose 4 games. 3 non-justifiable games because Alabama, that is what it is. But I don't know, man. I think 9-3 is acceptable for my definition in the sense of like whatever happens, whatever those other 2 potential losses are, I can accept it and move on and realize it was a good season. Something about 8-4 to me just still makes me think something has to change heading into a year where, Quinn Ewers will probably, if the current trend lines holds, go to the NFL and year worthy NFL year. Also, like, there's just something to me about the fact that this is like Bijan Robinson's last year as a Texas Longhorn. Like, you have to maximize and get it to that next level. So I don't know, maybe it's a hot take, but I'm kind of at the 9-3 point because, again, if we were playing the OU teams with, okay, we're going to have to play Kyler Murray or, another Baker, but we're not, Texas isn't. So maybe it's a hot take. I don't know.
I don't even think that's a hot take because honestly, I'm feeling going into this season, given how weak the conference is, that our expectations should be what they were in 2020, which was, we should be playing in the conference championship game. We should win this conference straight up. We just should. And I think like the hurt Texas fan in me doesn't want to like make that commitment to that sort of prediction.
Sure.
But also when you're looking at it, man, this is the most talented offense that we have had since the Vince Young era. And when you're looking at like just numbers alone, like are we sure you got a 5-star quarterback, number 1 overall, you have a 5-star running back, undoubtedly the best running back in the country. You have a top 3 wide receiver and another wide receiver that's probably going to finish top 10 at the end of this year statistically. You have another talented 4 or 5-star wide receiver sitting there. Another 5-star like athlete that was there who had insane expectations, but he hasn't been able to play. You got a 5-star tight end. We've never had this amount of just talent alone on the field. That's what I'm saying. Like, not
for sure. I just love those cult shit Quan Cosby teams so much that but I get what you're from a pure. Yeah. If you're just looking at the roster construction through.
Yes.
But even then, like Bijan Robinson is light years ahead of what Chris Obanaya was as a running back.
Exactly.
We didn't have like a solid running game. I'm thinking of like the Vince Young era. You had Vince, you had Jamal Charles, you had Selvin Young, you
We
had
had
Seti B
offensive
the year before,
linemen
Lyman
going to the
Sweet.
NFL from that group.
Exactly. And that's my thing. The
Colt,
expectation should be there.
I think Colts last year, so the pass catchers, very talented, even going back to Jermichael Finley that he got to play with.
Real quick, by the way, Jermichael Finley's son got offered by Texas. He's a 2026 athlete. He got offered at a camp, and he's one of the first 2026 offers. And that shit blew my mind. It was awesome. Like, because I've heard about he's been playing, but like that blew my mind.
What position?
We're getting old, fellas.
He's like a true athlete. They don't even know, but he apparently was just crushing it. And they were like, okay, well, we'll trust Jermichael
because the Suns are getting, yeah.
We're getting old. Shout out to Brandon. I know Brandon here in the comments bumped into, I think he told me this week he bumped into Jermichael Finley, and they exchanged contact information and stuff because, his son is being recruited. So this is, man, what a small world.
Sorry to cut you off, Steven, but it was just like, I kind of forgot that even happened.
That's super cool. No, I was just gonna say, like, the Colt McCoy thing, like, he led the team in rushing at one point. Like, so the pass catchers were very talented, but the offensive line and even the backs we had at that point, I don't think it was like we're a rotation of Selvin, Jamal Charles, and Ramon Taylor and all those guys. I think that group, NFL talent and speed, was just deeper in terms of run and pass. But yeah, I feel old with that Jermichael Finley news. That's awesome. That one and the Chris Henry offer was just crazy to me.
I'm thinking this is one of our, from a pure talent perspective, this upcoming season, one of our, like, obviously the offensive line isn't there, but if you add a sturdy offensive line to the fold, we're talking about one of the best offenses in Texas football history, in my personal opinion.
And also the blueprint is out there that if you just have a semi-respectable defense with a top 3 offense in the country, you're going to win 10 games. Like, even if it is a fringe top 50 defensive squad, like with the advanced metrics factoring in tempo and all this stuff, like, if the offense can be top 2, top 3, that's 10 wins. I mean, Lincoln Riley kind of proved that with how, he operated the program at Oklahoma. Like, and there are a lot of other examples of that across the country. Like, the offense, if you're able to put up 50 or 60, no matter who you're playing, you'll get wins.
100%. I love going, if all else fails defensively this year, obviously that's going to be really tough. I really want to see Sark to commit to this. Like, hey, we're Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech. Y'all got to put up 50 to beat us because we are going to air this bitch out. I want that. I desperately want that. Give me 1 second, fellas. Oh, 1 second.
So, anything else we want to touch on? Because we're over 2 hours, but this has been really fun conversation just to hit on so many different things and even reminisce over our good friend Jermichael Finley and just the era of Texas. Hudson, you're right though. I mean, we have to. I think my reluctancy to go higher than 8-4 is just based upon what's happened with Texas. What can go wrong has gone wrong. In terms of impacting our win-loss record. And it's been frustrating minus the Sugar Bowl season. So I think as much optimism, I've kind of painted this in my head of like this year wanting to just be excited about the youth and the development and all the things we have coming forward and really, really being in position offensively and defensively for 2023. But you make a great point about Bijan Robinson and what his goal was coming to this program. I remember him saying, I want to bring Texas back to glory, and how hard he plays and the star he's become, the marketability that he has. He's a legitimate college football star. I mean, Bijan Robinson is talked about by people who don't follow college football. And I think, from a celebrity aspect, because when Texas is good, they bring that celebrity aspect to college football. That's one thing, very few schools do that in terms of now you have people that don't watch college football, but they know who Bijan Robinson is. Growing up, a lot of my friends weren't college football diehards, but they knew who Reggie Bush was. And they watched every single Reggie Bush football game. They watched every single Vince Young football game. Those guys were celebrities. Those are the guys that came into the NFL top 10 in jersey sales. Now, granted, it's a little bit different now with social media and all that, but the ability to not just be a superstar, but somebody who's like legit. You see Bijan getting jerseys from Steph Curry at Dallas and hanging out with Luka and all these guys. Like that's when Texas was like not just winning and one of the best programs of all the 2000s, but it was cool, right? And so I'm excited. I mean, we didn't win anything of real significance under Sam Ehlinger, and he still was one of the most popular players in all of college football. Everybody knew who he was. And you look at the NIL evaluation for him, it was over $900,000 for his social media. So I'm with you in terms of the importance with Bijan and what that could bring about.
For sure. Oh, man, Steven, I'm about to have to hop off real quick and talk to a recruit. If y'all want to keep it going, then sure thing. Real quick, also, I've seen it in the chat a couple times. Just like and subscribe to the channel. Steven puts out a ton of really good content. And I don't know. It's always fun doing these. This is my hypothetical dream team. I love, love, love getting on with you guys and talking Texas football recruiting. So here's to many more.
Thank you so much, man. Good luck this weekend. I know you're very, very busy, very, very busy, but cheers. Thank you, Hudson, for coming on, spending over 2 hours with us. Guys, please hit up 247 Sports. Follow Hudson Standish over there. Follow him on Twitter for all the latest updates. Hudson, peace, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you guys.
Karen, anything you need to touch on, brother, before we wrap, or anything you want to plug? Oh, by the way, somebody brought up MMA, and I wanted you to kind of hit on some of your recent TikToks because it's been blowing up, your MMA journey and the Gabriel Floyd video you did. That also came up in the chat as well.
Yeah, love Gabriel Floyd. If you guys didn't know, former linebacker recruit from California, Gabriel Floyd. Connected with him out here since being in LA. Did like a little athlete profile on him. It's incredible, his journey. If you didn't know, he was committed to play at Texas, was honestly looking really likely to be starting at linebacker for us that freshman season. And he ended up getting diagnosed with spinal stenosis. So he had to medically retire from football, moved back out here to LA and started pursuing music and did extremely well. Like, I didn't even mention this in the video though, too. He had one of like the biggest songs on TikTok, like a huge TikTok trending song for months. And I didn't even really know it was him until like I was just like, what is this song? Who's LMBDG? I click on it. I was like, oh crap, that's the Gabriel Floyd. What the hell's going on? You know what I mean? Incredible. I started doing that. He started boxing as well. That's actually how we connected. He sent me some stuff, some like videos of him boxing and stuff because I was doing combat sports over on Haymakers. Yeah, and just an incredible story. And he recently got a second opinion from a doctor, and the doctor was essentially like, dude, if you're capable of going out here boxing, taking punches, receiving punches, giving punches, like you're set to play football. So now he's medically cleared again, and he's looking to get back into it. He's taken some official visits. I think he just went to Alabama. I'm not sure what it was. Alabama A&M. He just visited an HBCU recently. So yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. So I love the Gabriel Floyd story. Happy to see him back doing what he loves. That kid is incredibly talented. Also, he was on a couple of Destroying's videos, one of the biggest football YouTubers out there. It was awesome. It was awesome. And then me personally with the MMA journey, I've recently enrolled myself into this program called Alta. So this morning I was up at 5 a.m. to get to class at 6. And it's a 20-week training course where you're sitting or you do 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, MMA based training. Right now we're just building up the strength and conditioning, so I can't feel my legs whatsoever. I'm in an incredible amount of pain. It's terrible, but yeah. Yeah, so you're building up your strength, and then at the end of that 20 weeks, you take an amateur fight against somebody else that's competing in the program or that's participating in the program. And it's more of like, it's less of a like, oh, you're fighting after only like 4 or 5 months of training. No, it's more like a celebration of all of the progress that you've made. You went from being this person that well, me personally, I grew up boxing and stuff, so I do have a little bit of experience, but the program's awesome. You go from being just a regular Joe Schmo to 5 weeks later, now you've acquired all of these MMA skills and you're taking a fight against somebody else. It's a really cool concept. Also amateur fights, you're wearing headgear and all sorts of stuff. So it's a really cool program.
Guys, please follow and check out what Terrence got going on TikTok. I don't need to promote it too much. He's almost at 500,000 subscribers on TikTok, which is crazy. But the journey, his MMA video, the Gabriel Floyd video, it's my favorite piece of content that Kieran's done. I'm so proud of you for your journey. It's been very, very, it's honestly inspirational. And, I'm so proud of the hard work you're putting in. And I wanted to promote that to folks that may not know or may not be on TikTok or know about those things, because it's honestly, I think this is going to be a life-changing experience. And it sounds like it's already, shaping up that way.
Yeah. I mean, this year in general, it's been a wild year. If you guys didn't know, I've lost like 50 pounds from January until now. And now I'm getting into this training regimen. And I think by the end of the summer, I'm going to be in probably some of the best shape of my life. So it's a really cool thing. Excited to document it. And I'm doing it all on my Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I'm everywhere. So make sure you guys just tap in. It's going to be a fun little ride,
Amen. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. This was our first 3-man weave with Hudson Standish of 247 Sports and my buddy Kieran, who's just everywhere, as he said. I think we have it was a great dynamic, great chat today. And we'll definitely have to come back and do more of these episodes and just, vibe with y'all, because it helps all of us get through the day. We're all very excited with all the recruiting information. This is a big weekend coming up as Hudson is on the phone verifying people's visits right now. So we didn't get a chance to go through who exactly is going to be here this weekend, but we know potentially some really big names on the 40 this weekend. Also, quick shout out again to our sponsor, BUSR, busr.com/Fanatic, the official sponsor, official sportsbook, official betting partner of Fanatic Perspective. Some of the best customer service in the game, reliable sports betting partner. So anything you guys are handling right now, whether it's Major League Baseball, you're getting caught up with the new Live Golf or PGA Tour, all the craziness going on.
Wow.
And people getting bought out and
golf
stuff.
Drama.
You can definitely hit it up on BUSR. Kieran, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on and joining the 3-man weave.
Yes, sir.
Guys, we'll be back with more content. Remember, horns always up.
Hook 'em, baby.
Hook 'em.